Get out of here. I don't love you anymore, and my family is kicking you out.
Get it all out! Everything goes to the street right now!
Daddy! Daddy, please!
Don't cry, my baby. Daddy is here to protect you.
Ava, bring the files. It's time to reveal to them who I am.
Daddy! Daddy, please!
The sky over Brookstone Estate didn't just open up, it shattered. A violent, unforgiving thunderstorm ripped through the night, lighting up the sky in jagged streaks of purple and white. But the real storm wasn't happening in the clouds. It was happening on the pavement of the luxury residential complex. Everything goes outside. The voice boomed louder than the thunder. It belonged to Mr. Lawson Reed, the power-hungry estate manager who thrived on the humiliation of others. With a cruel smirk, he gestured at two burly maintenance workers. They grabbed a small pink backpack, drenched and heavy with rainwater, and tossed it carelessly onto the wet asphalt. A second later, a worn, fluffy teddy bear landed face down in a muddy puddle. 6-year-old Amara Brooks let out a sharp sob. Her tiny feet splashed through the freezing water as she rushed forward, her curly hair plastered to her face. She snatched the soaked stuffed animal from the mud, clutching it tightly to her chest. "Daddy?" she whimpered, her voice trembling violently from the cold and the fear. Malik Brooks immediately dropped to one knee. At 34, the former civil engineer possessed a quiet, unshakable dignity. He didn't yell. He didn't fight back against the guards. Gently, his large hands wiped the thick mud away from the teddy bear's face. He looked into his daughter's tear-filled eyes and forced a warm, reassuring smile. "It's okay, princess," Malik whispered, his voice a steady anchor in the chaos. "Daddy's here. We're gonna be just fine." Just a few feet away, standing perfectly dry under the wide shelter of the estate's grand portico, was Danielle Carter. Malik's wife of 7 years looked like she had just stepped off a runway. Her makeup was flawless, her designer heels gleaming, and her mother, Patricia, held a massive umbrella over her head. Not a single drop of rain touched them. They stood in stark contrast to the man and child shivering in the deluge. "I told you this deadbeat would end up exactly where he belongs, on the streets," Patricia sneered, her voice dripping with venom. At 58, she lived by a simple, cruel philosophy. If you didn't flaunt visible wealth, you were lazy and worthless. Danielle's brother Marcus stepped forward with a cocky grin. He was wearing an expensive watch and drove a sports car he could barely afford on credit. But tonight, he felt like a king. With a heavy boot, Marcus kicked one of Malik's open suitcases. The zipper tore and several iron shirts spilled directly into the rushing gutter water. Amara screamed in protest. Drop by drop, the little girl dropped her teddy bear and began using her tiny hands to pick up her father's ruined clothes, trying desperately to save them from the mud. It was a heartbreaking sight, one that the neighbors, watching from their warm apartment windows, were already recording on their smartphones. "Leave the clothes, Amara," Malik said softly, catching his daughter's hand. "But Daddy, they're getting ruined," she cried. Malik pulled her close, shielding her body from the wind. "They're just clothes, princess. They don't matter." He wasn't protecting the fabric. He was protecting her heart from the ugliness surrounding them. Mr. Reed stepped into the rain, holding a crisp sheet of paper. He cleared his throat loudly, ensuring the gathering crowd and the recording phones could hear every word. "Malik Brooks, per the formal request of the Carter family, you are officially evicted. You are no longer welcome inside Brookstone Estate. Wrap it up and get out." The words cut through the air. Danielle didn't look away. nor did she show a shred of remorse. She simply crossed her arms, satisfied that her embarrassing, penniless husband was finally out of her glamorous life. Amara looked up at Malik, her bottom lip quivering. "Daddy, where are we going to sleep tonight?" The question hung heavily in the freezing night air. Before Malik could answer, Patricia let out a sharp, mocking laugh from dry safety. "Maybe under a bridge, kiddo. Go ask your father why he couldn't buy you a real home." Instead of exploding in rage, instead of begging his wife for mercy, Malik did something that confused Mr. Reed. He stood up slowly, entirely calm. He looked the estate manager dead in the eye. "Mr. Reed," Malik said, his voice terrifyingly quiet, "who exactly signed this eviction notice?" Mr. Reed smirked, tapping the paper. "The Carter family requested it, and as a managing authority of this property, I authorized it. Now move." Malik nodded slowly. "I see." No threats, no shouting, but a chilling shift had just occurred. What the Carter family and Mr. Reed didn't know, what none of the whispering neighbors recording the scene realized, was a massive secret Malik had been keeping. Malik Brooks wasn't a penniless deadbeat. He was the sole founder and chairman of Brooks Residential Holdings, an $18.6 billion real estate empire, and one of the largest housing companies in the country. Brookstone Estate wasn't just a place he lived. It was merely one minor property out of hundreds in his massive portfolio. He had hidden his wealth because of a promise made to his late mother, who had grown up homeless. On her deathbed, she had told him, "Never let money decide how you treat people, Malik. Let them show you who they are when they think you have nothing." And tonight, the Carters had shown their true colors. Malik gently lifted Amara and walked over to his old, battered pickup truck, the vehicle he used precisely to maintain his humble cover. He placed her safely inside the warm cabin, securely buckled her seatbelt, and dried her wet face with a clean towel from the glove box. "Wait here, princess. Daddy has to make a quick call," he whispered. He stepped back out into the pouring rain, walking exactly 5 steps away from the truck. He pulled out a plain, unbranded phone. He pressed a single speed dial button. The line ringed once. "Hello, Ava," Malik said calmly into the receiver. There was a brief pause on the other end. "Could you come down to Brookstone Estate?" Malik asked, his eyes locked onto the dry, smirking faces of his wife's family. "And Ava, bring the ownership files." He hung up without waiting for a reply. The old pickup truck sputtered to life, its windshield wipers straining against the downpour as Malik drove through the heavy gates of Brookstone Estate. In the rear-view mirror, he watched the Carter family turn back into the dry warmth of the luxury lobby, laughing and celebrating their swift victory. They believed they had finally purged the deadbeat from their lives. They had no idea they had just set a trap for themselves. Danielle walked back into the penthouse apartment, shaking the light condensation from her designer jacket. Her phone was already buzzing with notifications. Marcus's live stream of the eviction was racking up thousands of views from their upper-class social circles. "Look at the comments," Marcus cheered, pouring himself a glass of expensive scotch. "Everyone is saying you finally cut the dead weight, Danielle. Your influencer brand is going to skyrocket now that you aren't tied to a ghost." Patricia adjusted her pearl necklace. A cold smile settled on her face. "A woman of your status belongs with visual power. Darling, tomorrow we begin the paperwork to wipe his name from everything completely. Mr. Reed has already assured me that Malik's credit will be utterly ruined by morning." Meanwhile, miles away from the affluent district, Malik pulled the truck into the parking lot of a quiet, unassuming 24-hour diner. The neon sign buzzed through the dark. He carried a now sleeping Amara inside, wrapped in his dry jacket, and placed her gently on the vinyl booth. Within 15 minutes, the headlights of the sleek black sedan illuminated the diner's foggy windows. The door opened, and a sharp woman in a tailored business suit stepped inside. It was Ava Vance, the chief legal counsel and executive director of Brooks Residential Holdings. She carried a thick, leather-bound briefcase. Ava took one look at the sleeping child and the faint dampness on Malik's shoulders. A dangerous quiet settled over her. "They actually went through with it," she said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "They did," Malik replied, taking a warm mug of black coffee from a waitress. He didn't sound angry. He sounded profoundly disappointed. They used Mr. Reed to bypass standard tenant protection laws. They wanted a public spectacle. They wanted to break me in front of Amara. Ava opened the briefcase, revealing documents stamped with the official seal of the global conglomerate. "The title deeds for Brookstone Estate are right here, Chairman. Your family trust holds 98% of the equity. The parent company, Brooks Residential Holdings, owns the land, the buildings, and the management contract that employs Lawson Reed. You can fire him with a single email." Malik held up a hand, stopping her. "No, not yet." Ava paused. "Sir, they threw your daughter into a thunderstorm. And if I strip them of their comfort right now, they will claim they are the victims of a sudden, cruel billionaire," Malik said, his eyes turning to the window as the rain began to clear. "I want the system they built to crush them naturally. Let them climb a little higher. Let them think they've won completely." Over the next 7 days, the illusion of victory made the Carter family bolder. Danielle's lifestyle channel gained massive traction as she framed her divorce as a brave rebirth from poverty. Encouraged by this newfound attention, Patricia pushed Mr. Reed to implement harsher rules within Brookstone Estate, targeting lower-income tenants, raising community fees, and threatening anyone who spoke out with immediate eviction. They were treating the estate like their personal kingdom. Marcus used the momentum to secure a massive business loan, falsely claiming that his family was on the verge of purchasing a major stake in Brookstone Estate's parent company. Mr. Reed, eager to secure a promotion into the corporate ranks of Brooks Residential Holdings, forged internal reference letters validating Marcus's creditworthiness. They were building a tower of cards, completely unaware that Malik was monitoring every transaction, every forged document, and every abusive policy from his temporary office downtown. By the 6th day, the annual Brookstone Estate Community Charity Gala arrived. It was the event of the year, designed to honor the city's most generous developers and philanthropists. The grand ballroom was a sea of crystal chandeliers, high-end investors, city officials, and local media cameras. The Carters occupied the head table, dressed in haute couture. Patricia carried a written copy of her acceptance speech, as she was slated to receive the Community Leader of the Year award for her family's alleged generosity and civic leadership. Marcus was busy live-streaming the event to hundreds of thousands of viewers, showcasing the sheer opulence of the room. "We build communities," Marcus bragged to the camera. "We remove the clutter so excellence can thrive." At the podium, the master of ceremonies cleared his throat, commanding the room's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we present our final awards tonight, we have a profound honor. The parent company that makes this entire community possible has historically operated in absolute privacy. But tonight, the elusive founder and global chairman of Brooks Residential Holdings has decided to join us in person." A collective gasp went through the room. Investors straightened their ties. Media cameras pivoted toward the main entrance. Mr. Reed stood near the stage, his heart pounding with excitement, hoping to finally catch the eye of the multi-billionaire who signed his paychecks. Danielle leaned over to her mother. "Imagine having that kind of power. Someone who actually commands the world." "Watch and learn. Total excellence," Patricia whispered back, adjusting her gown. "That is the kind of man you should have been with." The heavy double doors of the ballroom swung open. The crowd fell into an expectant hush as a figure stepped into the brilliant light of the chandeliers. He wasn't wearing an extravagant tuxedo covered in jewels. He wore a simple, perfectly tailored dark suit. His posture was calm, his expression entirely unreadable. Danielle's smile instantly froze. The glass of scotch in Marcus's hand slipped, shattering loudly against the marble floor. Patricia stood halfway up from her chair, her face draining of all color until she looked like a ghost. Walking down the center aisle, flanked by Ava Vance and a team of high-ranking corporate executives, was Malik Brooks. The silence that swept through the ballroom was absolute. It wasn't the silence of polite attention. It was a heavy, suffocating shock that paralyzed every person in the room. The local media cameras shifted focus, their bright lenses locking onto Malik as he walked with measured, calm steps toward the grand stage. Mr. Reed stood frozen at the foot of the stairs, his hands trembling so violently that the papers he held fluttered to the floor. His mind raced back to the rain-drenched pavement 7 nights ago, desperately trying to reconcile the image of the man he had called a deadbeat with the undisputed billionaire who owned the very ground beneath his feet. Malik didn't look at him. He ascended the steps, adjusted the microphone, and looked out over the sea of wealthy investors. His eyes finally rested on the head table, where Danielle, Patricia, and Marcus sat frozen like statues. Marcus's phone was still live-streaming, broadcasting the absolute horror on his family's faces to hundreds of thousands of viewers online. Malik did not raise his voice. He did not point a finger. He simply looked into the lens of the primary news camera and spoke. 7 nights ago, in the middle of a violent thunderstorm, a little 6-year-old girl looked up at her father and asked a question. Malik said, his calm voice echoing perfectly through the high-end sound system. She asked, "Daddy, where are we going to sleep tonight?" A murmur went through the crowd of city officials and investors. Malik paused, letting the emotional weight of that memory breathe, forcing the audience inside the room and the viewers watching the stream to remember the cruelty of that night. She asked that question because the management of Brookstone Estate, acting on the personal orders of the Carter family, threw her belongings, her clothes, and her childhood teddy bear into the mud to create a public spectacle. Malik continued, his tone remaining entirely level, yet utterly devastating. The people who ordered that eviction did so because they believed wealth dictates human dignity. They believed that because I chose to live quietly, I had no value. Patricia gripped the edge of the table, her elegant composure completely shattered as the surrounding tables began to turn and stare at them in disgust. Danielle felt a sting of tears, realizing that her entire public brand, her carefully constructed lifestyle image, was disintegrating in real time on a national broadcast. But true value isn't measured by the cars you drive on credit or the luxury status you flaunt to escape your own insecurities, Malik said, casting a brief, piercing glance toward Marcus and Danielle. My late mother grew up with nothing. Before she passed, she taught me a lesson that built this entire enterprise. Never let money decide how you treat people. I built Brooks Residential Holdings to provide shelter and dignity, not to serve as a weapon for the arrogant. Malik turned his attention to the side of the stage. Ava Vance. Ava stepped forward, opening the leather briefcase. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Effective immediately, Brooks Residential Holdings is terminating the management contract of Lawson Reed, Malik announced clearly. Furthermore, a full forensic audit has been launched into the estate's recent operations. We have already uncovered systemic tenant abuse, illegal fee inflation, and corporate fraud, including the forgery of financial references for unauthorized business loans. Mr. Reed sank into a nearby chair, his face completely pale as 2 security guards quietly moved to stand behind him, waiting for the authorities to arrive. Marcus stared at his shattered glass on the floor, knowing the fraudulent loans he had secured using Mr. Reed's forged signatures would now face criminal prosecution by morning. Malik then looked directly at Danielle. The divorce papers you drafted will be signed tomorrow. You will receive exactly what you contributed to our marriage, which, as your family frequently reminded me, is absolutely nothing. The penthouse lease is terminated. You have until noon tomorrow to vacate the property. And this time it won't be raining. The crowd they had sought to impress now looked at them with utter contempt. The system they had built to crush Malik had turned completely against them. Malik stepped away from the podium, leaving the chaotic noise of the ballroom behind him. He walked down the center aisle, his posture as calm and dignified as it had been when he first entered. He had delivered absolute justice without once raising his voice, proving that true strength didn't need to scream. An hour later, the quiet hum of the pickup truck filled the serene night air far away from the city center. The storm had completely passed, leaving behind a clear, star-filled sky. Malik drove up the winding driveway of a breathtaking, private estate nestled in the quiet hills, a home he had quietly purchased years ago, but had never shown anyone. He turned off the engine and looked over at the passenger seat. Amara was awake, her curly hair neatly brushed, holding her completely clean, dry teddy bear tightly in her arms. She looked out the window at the beautiful, warm house illuminated by soft golden lights. "Are we home, Daddy?" she asked softly, her eyes wide with wonder. Malik smiled, the weight of the entire week lifting from his shoulders as he reached over to unbuckle her seatbelt. He lifted her gently into his arms, holding her close against the cool night air. "Yes, Princess," Malik whispered, kissing the top of her head as they walked toward the front door of their new beginning. "We are finally home, and no one will ever throw us into the rain again."